young people give us older people energy, vitality. And so when we dismiss them, we're dismissing something that we need, something that is critical for ministry. Because how many of you out there have been to churches, older folk don't believe they should listen to the young? That's right. That's why we're having this conversation right now. Exactly. But Paul, an older minister, an older pastor, is telling this young man, Timothy, don't let him look down on you. Now, here's what he tells him. Because it's one thing to tell them, don't do it. Don't let them look down on you. You really can't control how someone looks at you or how someone perceives you, right? Mm-hmm. But you can control whether or not you internalize it and own it, right? And so Paul is telling them, don't own it. You keep preaching the word. You keep teaching. You keep doing what God has called, crafted, and created you to do. Right? And he also gives him some instructions and some ideas on how to maybe how to deal with the people looking down on him. He says, teach believers by your life. Teach them not to look down on you by your life, by how you live. And he tells them by your words, by the words that you say, right? By the I'm really excited about what I see in the media these days in terms of young people, in terms of millennials, because millennials are using their words. Millennials are using words in very powerful ways. Black Lives Matter. I mean, that's powerful. Right? Of course, it has caused a lot of controversy with other folks saying, well, all lives matter. Yeah, we know that. All lives ought to matter. But the truth is, black lives have not mattered. Right?
All lives don't matter to everyone.
Very well said.
It's just another way to make something about themselves, to take away attention from what's going on in the black community.
Like Dr. Z said, to dismiss.
Yes.
It's another way to dismiss.
Yes.
Right? And so there are all kinds of things that I have read from young people these days. Yes, ma'am, it's time to seize our moment. You know what? And listen, okay, older people should remember how many mistakes we have made and be non-judgmental. We ought to. You would think, right? But the truth is, in the church especially, that it's not happening. And I'm making a general statement, okay? Because I'm making a general statement because I know that there are churches, there are congregations that have vibrant ministry with young people involved in every part of the ministry. Those congregations are the minority. Those congregations are not the ones that are dying on the vine, right? But so I do want to make that point that there are congregations, and I know one or two of them, you know, 2 or 3 of them, not more than 5 of them in this area where we live in, right? But there are some. But the vast majority, the millennials are ghosts. The millennials are not there, right? And there's this misnomer, I think there's this lie that millennials don't care about spiritual things, that millennials don't believe in God, right? And there may be some that don't. There's some that do. There's some that question, right? And one of the reasons I think they question is because of what they see. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that, Indy?
I think that plays a part in it,
mm-hmm.
you know. And I think it's natural to question something. I think they question because they can't see. Because it's like, okay, you say God is real, but how do I know that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That how is there any like actual proof
mm-hmm.
that, and there isn't any.
Mm-hmm.
it's all based on faith.
Yes.
And, and I think there's nothing wrong with questioning, religion and deities. I think it's natural. I think if you don't question, then you're a robot.
Oh, I love this young lady. Absolutely. And so millennials have to have the freedom to question. Whether they're in the church, whether they're involved, or whether they're not. They have to have the freedom to question and not be judged, not be looked down on, not be dismissed or made to feel like they are some strange person. We are allowed to question, study, and analyze, Dr. Z. We have to be allowed to. Because if you can't question, you really can't have faith.
Yeah. And I think a lot of, millennials don't feel comfortable questioning in the church because it's like, how dare you? Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, well then let me go.
That's right. Let me go.
Maybe I don't need to be here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Paul tells Timothy that you teach believers how not to look down on you, how to respect you, how to honor you by your words, by your demeanor, by the way you carry yourself, by the way you comport yourself, by your love. That love thing is a challenge for us who are in the church and who have been in the church for a long time. And I think this could also be one of the reasons that we have a hard time holding on to millennials, because, love to them may mean something different than love means to some people in the church. What does love mean to you as it relates to being a believer and as it relates to, being a part of a church?
I think, first of all, I feel like love is a word that's tossed around so loosely in every situation. But, a lot of times in church, a lot of times you hear everyone is welcome. Or all are welcome. It's like, okay, but what all?
What all?
What all? What all are you talking about? You talking about all cisgendered heterosexual people? Like all cisgendered white males? All what? All of what? So yeah, that's I feel like when you really love someone, you really do mean all. You mean everyone. Everyone from every minority group, from every group that's been marginalized, you mean everyone. Not just who you want. So that's what I think of when I think, of love in the church and, in the Christian ministry. That's what I think of what love is supposed to be.
Yeah. It's
supposed to welcome everyone and not, shame people for things that they can't control.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And so I think some of our young people see a disconnect between how we in the church, we older people in the church, how we talk and how we live. Unconditional love. Yes, unconditional, no strings attached, right? Meaning there's no caveat. There's no catch. There's no catch, all are welcome. So that means all. All means all. That means if you are gay, if you are lesbian, if you are same gender loving, if you are black, if you are white, if you have some sort of disability, if you, whatever the case may be, you are welcome at the table. You're welcome. Hospitality. That's one of the things that the Israelites got in a whole lot of trouble with God about. When there were seasons of their life together that they were not hospitable, that they did not welcome the stranger, that they oppressed the poor, and that's a part of welcoming. How we treat the poor, how we treat the marginalized, as you say. How do we demonstrate this love, right? And often we think love also is weak, and as Martin Luther King Jr. used to say, anemic, right? That when you see an injustice, whether it's in the congregation or out in the world, when you see someone being treated unfairly or harmed or misused or abused, puritanical views, unfortunately, have been dominating the church. Oh my God. Yes, that is correct, Dr. Z. And thank you for chiming in again. But I lost my thought there, trying to do too many things at one time, trying to read. Oh, Diana, what was I saying? Just talking about love, that there's a disconnect between what we say and how we live, right? So if you're in a church and you see, as a young person, you see something that you know is wrong, that is harmful to someone else, that maybe you think this needs to be addressed, but rather than address it, leaders of the church just kind of, won't say anything. How many children get abused in churches, right? And people know about it, but don't say anything.
How many times are we quick to tell a gay person that they're going to hell, or a person that's transgender that they're going to hell? And this is in the black church, but we're so, just to me, this is in the black community, period. But we're so quick to dismiss a pedophile, like won't even, like, shh, we're not gonna talk about that. Like, we just,
wow. So in other words, what I hear you saying is that often in the black church, because that's our context, and it has been our context pretty much all of your life and all of my life, that we will know that there's a child molester, even in the neighborhood, right? And we won't say anything about that, right? But as soon as someone comes into our community that is same-gender loving, we want to talk about that. We want to blast them. But they're not hurting anybody.
Or we won't talk about the pastor who's having multiple affairs.
Absolutely. So there is a cognitive dissonance then. It's confusing to the young people. And so they see that and they act with their feet. They're out of there. And so we have to check ourselves as a community of faith. And so here's what Paul is telling Timothy. Paul is telling Timothy, this is the reality. There are people who, because of your age, are going to look down on you, are going to dismiss you, are going to feel that you have nothing to offer. He says, but preach on, teach on, make full proof of your ministry, he tells him. He tells him, live and be an example. So here's what the millennials are doing even now. The millennials are showing the church how to be church. See, church is not the building. And that's what many of us older folk have wrapped our minds around, and what we believe. We will die to keep that church building, to keep the church building empty as all get out. But we believe the church is the church building. But this past Sunday, I tell you, I heard just one of the best sermons that I've heard in a long time. And it was by a millennial, a 20-something young woman. And one of the things she said, she was talking about the church. And she said the church, the Greek word for church is ekklesia. And ekklesia, as most pastors know, that word means the called out. Right? But then she broke it down. She said, well, now the called out in our day and time, to be called out is a challenge. She said to be called out, another word is to be put on blast. And so that is what the millennials are doing to those who are married to the church building, putting them on blast, because they are being church. They are fighting for the oppressed. They are fighting for justice of all people, right? Of all people. They are demonstrating their love by these actions, while the church is content to sit on those pews on Sunday morning and give their tithes and take communion and go home and do it all over again next Sunday. So for millennials, ministry is very different. I think millennials have got it going on. I think we can learn a lot from millennials. I also think they can learn a lot from us, those of us who get it, right? Though, because they need wisdom, which they don't have to the degree that we have, right? But they've got the energy, they've got the creativity, they've got the innovation, right? They've got the courage that we don't have, right? And so when you put those two together, that's some powerful ministry. Andy, is there anything else you'd like to say? Thank you so much for your insight and for just sharing what you know and what you have experienced and seen as a millennial. Is there anything you want to say closing about millennials in ministry?
No.
No? Not a thing. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. And I want you to know that I love you. But more than that, you know God loves you, and that means that you are necessary. Each of you are necessary. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone, for chiming in today. We will be back this time next Tuesday evening, Central Standard Time at 7 p.m. Can't wait to see you again. Love you.